Hello folks, and just so you know, it took everything within my power not to open this video by screaming, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be just fine. Mine's okay, she's totally fine. Everybody's fine. We're all fine. Nobody panic! Everything's fine! Ooh. Oh, goodness. Okay, holy shit. Okay, Ascendance of a Bookworm. Let's do this. Today, we're gonna be talking all about episode 10, To the Second Winter, but before we do, I want to give a big thank you to my boy at Nacho Gashardo for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Ascendance of a Bookworm video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so yeah, if you can't tell, I'm still a little bit shaken up from the end of the previous episode. I do record these immediately after seeing the episode, so I'm a little shaken up. I'm a little friggin' freaked out right now. So MAINE'S battle with the Devouring once again continues into this week's episode, and it's getting worse. Like, I'm fairly certain this is the worst that it's been, at least the most frequent that it's been, because MAINE has even said herself in this week's episode that it's worse, like it's more frequent. She's having more frequent attacks, and even just thinking about the Devouring even just a little bit actually makes the illness really take hold, and it's beginning to become a constant issue. And I don't like seeing MAINE like that. It breaks my heart. We're on to episode 10, right? This show, I believe, is getting 14 episodes, a bit irregular, but you know what? I'll take it, because I gotta know how things go. I gotta make sure that my girl's okay. If I had to guess, I'm going to safely assume that things are gonna be really touch and go for the next 3 episodes. And then it's probably gonna end with meeting the high priest, who's gonna try to help MAINE and figure out what's going on and how she knows what she knows, and he's gonna be really interested in her and try to help her with the Devouring. That's my guess. I'm an anime only, so I don't know how accurate that is. I can only guess at what's gonna be happening. That said, if I don't get a season 2 announcement, your boy's gonna be reading the light novel immediately, because I can't be left on this note. The anxiety in me I would die. I would just, if I had the Devouring, I would be dead, because I'm so anxious. I have to know that she's okay. The way that they ended this episode had me on, my jaw hit the floor, my heart stopped, I almost exploded in a sea of depression and anxiety. You know what I mean? Like, this episode just killed me. I gotta know she's okay. My God. Like, obviously she's gonna be okay. We saw in the flash forward she's gonna be okay. But it's just the fact that, like, seeing MAINE like that sucks. You hate it because you care so much about MAINE. And you know seeing her like that stopped Benno's heart completely, but even worse was, Lutz just about died when he saw him. Like, it's not just the fact that he sees her like have an attack from the Devouring when they're making paper, but it's that end scene where she like falls back in her chair, and she doesn't just fall backwards, she like hits the ground hard, right? She hits the ground hard, bounces the ground like she's a basketball. And Lutz straight up, you could see on his face, like, both Lutz and Benno are like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the end. Benno immediately screams for Mark, like, you gotta get the carriage. We're getting the help. We are getting this girl help. She's like, this could be it. And like, to them, we have external knowledge that we know that MAINE is probably gonna be okay. Because again, we have the flash forward at the beginning of the season. And you know what? On one hand, I kind of don't like that we know that she's going to be okay, but on the other hand, I'm kind of glad, because the amount of tension in the air is so palpable. I'm pretty sure I was going to burst into tears even knowing that she's okay. So if I didn't know, I would be almost angry that the episode ended where it ended, because like, I gotta know she's okay. And and on top of that too, it gets you hyped to see like what the meeting between her and the high priest is gonna be like. I don't know. I'm sort of torn on the opening scene from episode 1 now that we have all this tension with MAINE, right? Because you really feel it. For like, the show is so good at delivering its drama and tension that you forget that she's fine. Like, that what we are seeing is the high priest going through her memories. So, like, that's the entire show thus far, has been Maine's memories up into that first introduction, that first scene from episode 1. Everything is a memory up leading to that point. So we know that she's okay, but the show is so good at making you freak the hell out. I just have to give them kudos. And you hear that sound? You hear that paper? You hear that paper turning right now? Because your boy wrote down some names, okay? Because I saw somebody rightfully point out that I sound like an idiot sometimes, and I always say like, oh, I don't know this person, the director, I don't know their name. And you know what? The person wrote a rude comment about it, but I'm gonna take it to heart. You know, I respect that some folks have said the same thing and were nicer about it. So to that person, you can go fuck yourself. But to the other people who were kind to me and said like, hey man, maybe you should write down the names of people if you want to talk about them. So I did. And I have to give big kudos, not just to the original creator, Miyakazuki, who wrote the books, but also I have to shout out the director, Mitsuru Hongo, who is, funny enough, a sort of odd director choice now that I look at things. So this is the director of the entire show, not the episode director. Unfortunately, I'm not really able to see who each episode director is. Like it's in Japanese. I can't read Japanese, but I can check both MAL and Anime News Network, and I was able to figure out a bunch of the crew members, and I figured out who the director was. So I'm going to safely assume that the director had a hand in this episode, and the director Mitsuru Hongo. Like I said, I have to give that man absolute praise. And also, fun fact, he directed fucking Outlaw Star. And he also directed World Trigger, which I know not a lot of folks like, but it's funny to think, okay, so like imagine Outlaw Star and World Trigger, two shows that couldn't be farther apart from Ascendance of a Bookworm. But the thing is, he's also done a lot of family programming, including stuff like Ride On, which is the Monster Hunter spinoff that's more aimed at like kids to like a family kind of TV show. So he does actually have a lot of like, his hands are in a lot of pots. But I gotta say, like, I love Outlaw Star to pieces. I think that show, I never really noticed the direction in that show because when I saw it I was young, so I wouldn't have really picked up on that. But here I recognize the man's talent like big time. This episode, again, the way that they're able to, the tension in each, not just each episode but each scene, it's palpable, and I have to properly give the man his kudos with a proper shout out, not just the director. So there you go, Mitsuru Hongo. And since I have all these names written down, I may as well point out too that the seiyus, as usual, absolutely crush every scene they're in particular Lutz and Mine. Mine's seiyu is, in my opinion, she's deserving of like seiyu of the season, like not just this show, I mean like the entire anime season, just because the way she flits between not just like mature Mine and childish Mine, but also like calm to panic is like she has to do this in an instant. Like you don't think about how difficult that is when you're watching it, but it being in the moment, fluttering between serious and mature and like scared and childlike is insanely difficult. So yeah, big shout outs to Yuka Eguchi. I'm not terribly familiar with her work, unfortunately. She's worked on stuff, she's Index from the Index series. She's also been in stuff like Girls in Panzer, Fairy Tail, but I know her as Aoi from Encouragement to Climb, and she's great in Encouragement to Climb. She's not like the standout actress in that, but here, I think this is like, mind you, I'm very much biased. I'm not terribly familiar with her work, so I can't speak to how it stacks up to her other roles, but to me, this is what I will be referencing whenever I see her in other shows. This is going to be the yardstick that I judge her by, because her performance as Mine is absolutely stellar. Especially in this episode, because oh my god, the amount of emotions that Eguchi has to go through as Mine here is insanely difficult. Like her acting is brilliant. She brings such genuine human emotion to Mine. And again, you really do feel for her in this moment. You feel every emotion she goes through, every little scene she's in, you really just feel for her. Your heart bleeds for Mine in this week's episode. I will defend this kid to the day I am dust, man. Mine is just the best. She's the friggin' best, and I hate seeing her sick. It breaks my heart. Let's just say you also crushes it. Mutsumi Tamura. Fun fact, Mutsumi Tamura, if you can't tell, is a lady. You may actually know Tamura from other works. She was Kobayashi from Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and she is the best in that. She was also Zorome from Darling in the Franxx. She was also young Hiyori from Free, and young Kakashi from Naruto. So, I mean, she found her niche and she works it, so good for her. And Benno Seiyu is obviously Takehito Koyasu. I'm only saying it because if I didn't, people would be upset that I referenced the other two and not Dio. So there you go. Look at your boy being all professional, getting people's proper names down and everything. But proper professional I am. You hear that paper? That's for mine right there. If you can't tell, this episode really floored me. I think the acting was fantastic, direction was fantastic, and that's, so far I have only talked about the battle with the Devouring that MAINE is currently going through. I didn't even talk about like teaching Lutz to be a proper business type, the all-in-one shampoo fiasco, making more paper. There's so much stuff happened in this week's episode. I could go on, and in fact, I'm going to. Let's go ahead and talk about teaching Lutz to be a proper businessman, because that's something that I feel is going to heavily come into play the further down the road that we get. If I may make sort of a parallel, right? So I feel as though Otto is very much MAINE's teacher in a lot of ways. Like, Otto's taught MAINE quite a bit about how their world works without Otto ever really catching on that MAINE's not exactly from around here. But Benno is much more of, like, Benno serves an Otto type role to Lutz. Like, if MAINE's teacher is Otto, then Lutz's teacher is Benno. The reason I bring that up is because it was on Benno's request that they try to sort of work on Lutz's appearance and mannerisms, try to sort of like fix him a little bit to be more of a businessman type. And Lutz is obviously thrown back by this because that's not his nature. He's not a businessman, so he's not quite used to that yet. But Benno really says, like, you have to try. I need you to try. And Benno's like, listen, you're probably not going to get this by the end of winter, but just try. Just try to, like, improve your mannerisms, improve your appearance. Just try to be more businessman. Like, if you're going to enter this world, you need to be prepared. I want you to be prepared. I don't want to have to worry about you. So do this for me as you're my apprentice. So as your master or whatever, I'm just asking you to try. So work with me a little bit. And that theme of, like, Lutz becoming a better businessman, that sort of overarching little plot point for him in this episode. That's what I loved about this episode, right? That comes back into play towards the end of the episode. Every little beat, story beat in the story, character beat in the story, everything has like one moment where like you get this character beat, right? And then you get that echoed towards the end of the episode. This moment between Lutz and Benno at the beginning, and then it's echoed again towards the end with another scene between Lutz and Benno where Lutz asks Benno, not even asks, pleads with Benno, help MAINE. You can help MAINE. You have the money to do so. You're the only person I can ask. You have to help MAINE. And I'm sitting there like, I'm sure if Benno could just snap his fingers and help MAINE, he would. Like, you know that he would, Lutz, on some level. He's obviously going to help you try to save MAINE, because not only is it profitable for him, but he's also just a good person. Like, I know he says, like, I'm a great businessman. And sometimes to be a shrewd businessman, you have to be kind of mean and a little bit cruel, but at the same time, you could tell that Benno hasn't let that completely corrupt him. He is a good dude, and he does want to help MAINE, not just for profit, but also because, yeah, he's a good guy. He likes MAINE. He wants to help her. And I loved that scene between him and Lutz, like Benno and Lutz having this moment where Lutz pleads with Benno, like, please, you have to help her, you have to help her. And Benno's like, you want to help her? You want to help MAINE? Then tell you what, have her stop worrying about you. You ever notice how every time she's in pain, she smiles at you? Like, that's her main priority. You want to help MAINE? Step up. Become a businessman. Make as much money as you can, wherever you can, however you can. That's how you help MAINE. And it's not said in like a, like, you idiot type of way. It's said as in, like, I am trying to rile you up because I know that you can do this, and I know you care about MAINE, and I know this will be the push you need to become the businessman that I can see that you can become. Like, you can tell that Benno sees in Lutz, not just MAINE, in Lutz too, business skill. And so he wants to help, like, awaken that within Lutz, and I loved that scene so much. Like, I thought that moment between the two of them, again, it really, like, sort of echoed that thought that, like, Benno is sort of serving this, again, like, they are master and apprentice, right? So it's this sort of tutoring type of role to Lutz that I just loved. And Benno gets a lot of play in this week's episode. It's not just like the Lutz scene, it's also the all-in-one shampoo thing, right? Because obviously we have this issue happen where they're not sure how Main made the all-in-one shampoo. They're following her instructions, but it's not quite working out. So they have to go to the workshop where they're making the shampoo to get Main to help, because apparently, according to their magical ink, which, yes, everybody screamed at me that, like, JoJo, like, he's not magic, it's the ink that's magic. Again, okay. Y'all, I really need you to check the comments before commenting in case somebody else maybe said it already. If somebody else already said, like, hey, it's the ink is magic, not Benno. Odds are I saw that and now know that I was wrong. You didn't have to comment it a gajillion times. Anyway, that's a side tangent. Yes, the magical ink actually will have life-threatening consequences if they don't follow through on what they have to do, which I kind of figured it would, so they immediately have to be like, we gotta go to the warehouse and figure this out. So they go to the warehouse, Main takes a look at what's going on, and she's quickly able to sort of suss out like what's going on, so blah, blah, blah. And that scene's cool, but it's not really important. What's important is Benno takes Main to the meeting room and basically says, like, I'll give you 2 gold pieces if you tell me everything that there is to know about the all-in-one shampoo. Main jokes saying, like, I'll take 3. And he's like, okay, I'll give you 3. And you want to know why? Because you need gold. And this obviously kind of confuses Main, because it confused me too. I was like, why is he, what, like, that was easy, okay. And then Benno follows it up with, you have the Devouring, you're gonna need money. It's not fair because you don't have the connections that the others do, so I really need you to make as much money as you can to try to fight the Devouring. And when Main begins to sort of like talk about all these skills about how to make shampoo and all this stuff, and Benno says, like, are you sure it'll work? And she's like, well, I've never tried it here, but yeah. And he just looks at her and he goes like, okay, who are you really? And I'm like, this is the second time Main got caught. But this time around, Main was prepared, because Main said, like, I didn't sell you this information without knowing that this was going to come up, but I'm going to have to keep this one secret. No amount of gold will get me to tell you the answer to that. That's got to be a secret between me and myself, and I can't tell you. And Benno is a good enough dude to be like, all right, you get the one secret. That's fine. God, this show is so good. These characters are great. The drama is so good. Everything about this show is so good. And I'm going to safely assume, because they bring up Trombe again in this episode, the Trombe, the characters, the seiyus call it Trombe, so I'm gonna call it Trombe. So the Trombe, all right, shows up again. They're like, oh, it's a Trombe attack, blah, blah, blah. So the guards rush out, including Otto and Gunther, and they all run out. And I'm thinking, I saw a lot of people in the comments go like, you know, I'm thinking the Trombe has some kind of effect on Main, and I'm kind of inclined to agree. Like, I genuinely believe that the Trombe, the reason why it reacted so violently almost to Main is I think that it's gonna siphon like some of that mana out of Main, because even Main said, like, I'm feeling kind of lightheaded, like, in that episode. So my best guess is that it's gonna siphon some of the mana out of Main, so maybe that can sort of help not stop, but sort of ease the Devouring a little bit until they can get to a safer spot. So that's my best guess on the whole Devouring and Trombe thing. I had to bring up the Trombe thing because I felt like it was too convenient the way it happened, because it's like, oh, now we can make paper again. But they really focused on it. Like, they were really like, the Trombe, or like there's a Trombe out here, oh my goodness. And you see all the guards rush out, and it's really specific. Like, the direction has me inclined to believe that it was meant for us to take notice, like, oh, Trombe again, that's interesting. So I feel like they want to keep that the Trombe plant in our mind, so that when it comes up again, we know what it is and we know what it's going to do. So that's my best guess on how Main might combat the Devouring. And I'm not ready for the show to end, and I can't, but at the same time, the next episode can't get here soon enough. You know what I mean? Like, that's a sign of a good show. I really fully believe that this show is just the best fucking isekai this whole year. I don't say that lightly. I used to hate isekai. I now love isekai, but I truly believe that Ascendance of a Bookworm is the best isekai of the year. It hasn't been a particularly great year for isekai, so maybe that helps it stand out amongst the rest, but I really do feel that Ascendance of a Bookworm is one of the best isekai of the year, and easily among some of the best isekai I ever done saw. With that said, everybody, I am very happy to say that this is the first S-tier episode of the show. The show has consistently been A and B tier, mostly A tier, but there you go, your first S-tier episode. Everything about this episode had me on the edge of my seat. It was great, and I loved it. And on that note, everybody, that's gonna wrap up today's video, but before we take off, I wanna give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Ginkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne Eastbred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.